Hey,
We are live.
This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. I'm Anais.
I'm Remy.
I'm Maya.
and I'm Gerald.
And today we're discussing Handicap by Elizabeth Chandler. Spoilers ahead. Handicap is split into two main stories that follow Sid, a woman who lives in a mining town. First, she eats dinner with Gerald, hey, and Francis, a couple who are silently feuding over jealousy issues. Francis has stopped washing as a show of loyalty to Gerald. The next morning, the men swing in a mine shaft on ropes and swing both violently and flirtatiously until descending into the mine's depths, where Gerald stretches out his arms and waits for Francis to join him. Next, Sid visits with Keith, who is on bed rest following a toe injury. Keith tells her about his childhood, his pet dog, and his cruel stepfather who taught him how to build muscles using bungee cords. He recounts the story of the time when his family was snowed in. His stepfather, annoyed with the dog's yapping, threw the dog into 4 feet of snow. Keith tried to find the dog but failed. The next morning, the dog arrived at the door, frozen and frostbitten. Keith amputated one of the dog's paws, but the dog died. Keith says sometimes it isn't enough and finishes his story, falls asleep.
Hey.
I don't know how you summarize that because, frankly, I read this story and I was like, what did I just read?
Yeah.
There were words, there were paragraphs, there was a whole bunch of names. I was halfway through the story before I realized it was a woman. So, yeah, I was lost for most
Yeah,
of the story.
it took a while to get used to.
I thought having a Gerald in the story would be the problem, but no, it was the Sid.
So, my problem, huh?
We need from ropes and a mine shaft. Sorry.
It's just a hobby. It's fine.
Okay, so let's just start top level. How did everybody feel about this story now that I've told you all how I felt?
I don't know, really. I enjoyed the writing. I don't understand it. That's about it.
How about you, Remy?
Same as you, Maya. I'm glad I wasn't the only one, but just confused, and I'm hoping our conversation today will elucidate it for me.
No.
No, it's not happening yet. I have a feeling. Any,
Yeah, I can't save
since
you,
you
Rami.
wrote
I
the
don't think
summary,
anyone
you seem to
could.
understand it the best.
Yeah. The first time I read it, I thought maybe I'm just too tired because I feel like I read a bunch of words that don't make sense, especially the Gerald and Francis section where I was like,
Yes, thank
what
you.
is this? What am I reading? So I'm like, okay, I'll read it in the morning. Wake up the next day, read it again, and I'm just like, I don't know.
I didn't like the fact that because I read it 3 times that I was going to be the oracle on this story and be able to explain everything. So the third reading made nothing more clear
Okay,
at
so
all.
let's just try to pick this story out then, because I think for me, the confusing part was the first half of the story. The first half of the story, people are referring to each other and telling stories through other people's mouths, and it's just the way it's written is very confusing. And it reminded me of a comment Rami made, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, about a story we read where it was an excerpt from a novel, and it didn't work for him as a short story. Now, the problem he stated with that short story, I didn't agree with. I felt like that story in particular worked well. But I feel like this is the exemplification of the issue that Rami was stating, where there was too much put into a short story, and it is it's related to a novel it's playing out. The second half of the story, I was fine with, but that first half, I'm trying to figure out what it was about that first half that made it so confusing.
Yeah, I think I mean I think you could say the first half and particularly the meal introduces the characters, but then it sort of goes nowhere and I don't know, the whole swinging from the ropes thing. I didn't get that. I think there might be some meaning, but I didn't understand it. And yeah, it seems terribly disjointed and some very clever writing and some beautiful choices of words and phrases, but I don't know. It's a strange old story.
Yeah, the beginning was kind of frustrating for me because you don't know whose point of view you're in yet. You don't realize you're following Sid. So there's all these he's going on and then a couple she's, and you're like, who's the he's, who's the she, who are we talking about? Like, it was very confusing in the beginning. Like, who's upset with who and why? And then, or when Francis is like, yeah, he thinks I'm trying to sleep with, and I'm like,
Who's
who
BT?
thinks you're trying to sleep with who? I didn't get at all in the first reading that BT was the waiter. Like, just like there was just something about the way that it was written that it felt like it was code in the beginning as to who is who.
Yeah. So, how many locations do we have in the story? We have the house where Keith is at, where he's had his toe amputated, and he's telling the story about the dog. That one dog is. We have the mine shaft. Before the mine shaft, where are they? Are they in a restaurant? Are they at the house? Are they on their way to the mine shaft?
There's a waiter, so I guess a restaurant.
I think, or it could be because I think is it South Africa it's based in? I don't know
Yeah,
why I think it's South
Africa.
Africa. So it might be a servant in that case.
Oh, true. It could be, but no, because they're poor people. Because
Are they poor?
Okay, so here's the reason I think they're poor. That's the other thing is the author doesn't describe anything about the environment. And I'm not the type of person who needs a lot of description. Like, I get sick if you tell me every single piece of furniture in a room. I want to like shake an author. But this is the other extreme where it's like, I have no cues for anything here at all. I don't even know if they're sitting at a table or on a rug. Like, there's nothing here. And the only reason I think they're poor is because when she's with Keith, she says she wants to talk about her mother and the mine collapsed. So her mother used to work in the mines when it collapsed. But then there's a part of me it's like, but there's something about the way that they talk and the way they exist which seems very like white to me. And I don't think white people mind in South Africa. So I'm like really confused. So I don't know what's happening.
I wonder if it's written to be deliberately confusing because you have Sid, the name of Sid for a woman, you have two characters who are gay, but it's not explicit in any way at the start. You have to sort of work it out, which is fine, and I suppose possibly all more enjoyable for that. But it's very, very vague, and it's just like this little scene that has no connection to anything. I mean, the meal has no connection to anything else other than introducing the four characters and the swinging from the ropes.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to connect the first half of the story with the second half. And it literally is broken up into first half, second half. Like there's a line break and everything between the two halves of the story. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out, I feel like your author is trying to say something. If you look at the second half, that makes sense. And then you kind of reflect that onto the first half. I can see that the author is going for something, but it's so vague and so convoluted, I can't pick it out. So you've got a situation where this young kid he's talking about when he was a young kid, the dog was thrown out, and the dog tried to survive and cut off the dog's foot to try to help it, and the dog died anyway. He's telling the story as he's sitting on a couch with his toe amputated. And I'm sitting there like, okay, did he get injured in the mind? Is this a reflection on what's happening with the other characters as they're in the mind? Maybe their lives are being amputated in some way. I understand that this is like some reflection on urban mining, and I get that, but what's not working for me, I think the thing that's making the story not work for me is how many characters are in this story. There's too many people for me to focus on any kind of message or theme or truly understand what's happening in that story. And I don't think, have we ever had a short story with this many characters in it?
I mean, and also, like, I don't want to come down on the story too hard, but the only reason we know this is commentary on urban mining and that this is happening in South Africa is because of the author's bio at the end. There's no signal about any of that in the story either.
Yeah. It's a problem. I
The author's
honestly,
bio is more clues than the story itself.
I don't think this is a short story. I think that she was offered a space for a short story, and she decided to take the opportunity to use it to promote her upcoming book. But her book evidently is complex enough, or maybe she's just, I don't know. But the trying to smush it all into a short story, it didn't work.
Well, mate, I did wonder at one point whether English wasn't her first language, but it's because it reads a bit like that, like we're sort of missing something somewhere, some clue as some thread to hide. I think it's quite interesting.
Those instructions for furniture that are technically English, they're almost right, but there's something just slightly off about it. You can't pick out what from the instructions.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that it's not her first language, but there was a part of me that was like, where is the editor in this? Especially in the beginning when it's so confusing as to who is who and what's happening. Or when it's Gerald asks Francis to race across the terracotta. What is that? Is that the roof? What is the terracotta?
I don't know. I honestly I don't think it's her second language. I feel like there's something missing and it could be seen that way. The author went to school at UC Irvine. That is a really hard MFA program to get into. You would have to really know your language in order to get into there if you're not English first language. I don't know. Do you feel like maybe this is a case of MFA voice?
I was thinking
Gone wild?
MFA to death. It's like an MFA Frankenstein. It's like, because there's a few other parallels. You mentioned the amputation, the dog, you have the toe thing. And then there's also like, I was like, okay, there's ropes in the first one, there's bungee cords in the second one, but there's no clear definition or signposting on how those things connect. And then it's like, who is the story for? So then who is supposed to read the story and enjoy it? Other MFA people to pick it apart?
I don't know. I can see how if this was a novel, it would work a lot better because you would have more room to talk about the characters and explain the surroundings. There were things I liked about the story. I liked how, in order to prove his loyalty, Francis stops bathing, becomes disgusting, so that other people won't want him in order to prove that he's loyal to his boyfriend. I liked that. It was odd and quirky. It was just odd and quirky enough to almost be realistic. I could totally see like some weird couple doing something like that. I liked that. I liked the image of this dog. I liked that. I liked a lot of the imagery in the story. But the imagery didn't tie together for me. But I did like the imagery down in the shaft of them swinging on the ropes and tilting upside down to get out of the ropes. Like, I thought that was really interesting writing.
Yeah, I had to read that bit a couple of times because use of the word noose and swinging. I was wondering, and with the foregoing scene in when they were eating the meal, I just wondered whether there was some some sort of hanging thing going on, but no, obviously it's they're just swinging in the mine, having fun.
That's the other thing, is that it says that Gerald jumps down 13 rungs worth of ladder. I'm like, how did he not break a leg? Like,
Yeah.
So part of it was like,
maybe he did. Maybe that's the reflection with the toe in the second half. At first, I thought they were the same person until I realized that they were different people.
yeah, but there's a part of me that's like, is she imagining that they're okay and they actually plummeted to their deaths? But that's out of nowhere. Like, you do not get a sense of the characters in the waitress scene that either one of them, except maybe Francis, might be willing to commit suicide, only because Francis has this extreme depressive reaction to Gerald's jealousy. But why would Gerald?
Or maybe he was just exaggerating the lungs using literary license, which just further confused us because there really wasn't anything in that first half of the story to cement us in time and place.
It's kind of strange because when they drop to the bottom of the mine shaft, they're inverted. So they're because they're swinging head up, and then they invert and drop. So they're dropping head first, which.
Or maybe they were swinging head down and then inverted to drop feet down. That's what I thought. I was confused.
No,
I think the fact that we're talking about this kind of says a lot.
It's a bit like, maybe it's a bit like abstract art, that you're looking at it and you're trying to sort of, you're trying to come to terms with it and trying to understand it, and it's sort of defying logic, and maybe that's what it's all about. It's
Really, when I look at abstract art, I don't actually try to define it. I try to just step outside myself and feel what the art is giving me.
Right.
For
That's what
me,
I was gonna
abstract art is very emotional, and if I sit there and I try to dissect this line here and this, I'm just confused. The artist doesn't do that when they're making the art. I shouldn't be doing that when I'm watching it. And so when I'm looking at abstract art, I literally just try to step out of my own head and just feel what emotions that art gives me. And if I look at the story that way, I'm still left blank.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is when you look at abstract art, it's kind of like the impression that it makes on you. Or there might be certain signposts, like it's one or two things. It's either abstract art that has like sort of like symbols that have to do with a certain culture that you already understand, so you can kind of get the message that it's pulling from that culture, or it's impressing on you a feeling. This one's doing neither, especially since we don't even know, without knowing her bio and her history and the book she's working on, you don't even know what culture this is in. Yeah. The more I talk about it, the more I dislike it, actually.
Yeah.
It's not a good sign.
Yeah, yeah.
Rami's quiet.
Yeah, I'm just listening to all of you talk while I try to think of a rating.
Oh,
Rabbi,
no.
something nice to say? Yeah,
No, not at this moment.
Excellent.
And at the very end, where she kind of wants Keith to keep talking about it, and he's content to leave it there, and he's like, it isn't enough. What isn't enough? It. I feel like that's another thing where we're supposed to know what the it is. Having shown us all of these scenes, we're supposed to understand, like, oh, the struggle of urban living or this and that. But there's nothing actually there for you to fill in the blanks with the it. And then it ends with her wanting to pour water over his face. Not splash water to wake him up, but pour water in this kind of like aggressive act as he's sleeping. And it's like, why?
Yeah, I thought the it was trying. You know, this attempt to try to make the dog live, this attempt to try to live your life, that must be the it. And sometimes it isn't enough. But then getting the instinct to waterboard your buddy just kind of left me confused.
Yes. And just before the end, there's sort of multiple back and forths in the dialogue about the dog and the paws and how many paws he amputated and all that stuff. So she spends a long time on that dialogue.
That's what makes me think it means something.
Yeah, and sort of clarifies.
It means something thematically. Otherwise, she wouldn't spend so much time on it because she's an MFA student or graduate. So she knows that you spend time on the things that matters. Therefore, I know that it has something to do with the theme, but I have no idea what the theme is.
No.
This has been over MFA. That is my conclusion. This is way too MFA. It is written for other MFA people. It was not for us because we're not in her class.
And this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem that's happening right now. We see this where things are over workshopped. Like I'm going to a workshop for my novel on tomorrow morning, and I would like to try a couple different workshops, but it's the question of you don't want too many hands in the pot because your theme and everything will get washed away. And I don't know if that's what happened, but that's the impression that the story gives. I do feel like this was a larger piece that got smushed. But you can tell that this was written within a certain construct, and it's just not working.
Yeah.
No, it's like if we go back to the iceberg analogy and the story, there is nothing above the surface. There is no story for us to enjoy and get a handle on. It's all under the surface, and you just think, what's the point?
Yeah, I don't think I've run into that very often, but you're right. Usually it's the story's decent, but there's nothing underneath the surface. But this is all under the surface, and there's no story for us to grab onto.
I do love the iceberg analogy. It's so true.
This iceberg has not surfaced because I don't know. We don't even know it's there. And I think we don't even know it's there. We crashed into it and we're like, why are we sinking?
Yes, that's
We're all going to drown now.
yeah. This story's crashed our podcast. It's
Yeah.
Is there anything else we can say about this story? Because I feel like I feel the wheels grinding to a halt.
there's some nice phrases. So usually, apart from that one four-letter word that I really dislike in a story, but that's just me. But yeah, Francis leaned across the table, releasing fumes. He smelled like a piston alley, a subway in winter. I thought that I liked that one, and also the cells took their time closing in from the outside edges, like thick ice hardens in a filmed lake. So there's some great writing in there, and
Okay, but that kind of made me laugh. So she was doing that thing that MFA writers do a lot of, like a something, something, something to create the visual, like a something. And then when she gets to the snow, she's like a what? Like a wedge. The snow came up against the house. Like you could almost feel the author being like, I don't know what to make this like as, so I'm just going to make it a joke. It's like a wedge. Isn't that funny? But then it's a little bit like Oz peeling back the curtain. Like you're like reminding me that you're here trying to do MFA tricks. Okay, it's still funny, but...
So that's the thing. The little bits of enjoyment I got specifically because I know something about story construction that's currently taught. If you were not a writer, if you didn't know anything about it, how would you feel about that story? And is that why Rami's so quiet this episode?
Rami's like, I can't even make fun of MFAs.
Like, I have nothing to grasp onto. No frame of reference. Because honestly, I think if I wasn't a writer, I would dislike the story even less.
yeah.
You know, here's the other thing, though. Let's not, and by let's I mean Anais, I'm talking to myself right now. I should not come down so hard on MFAs, though, because we have read plenty of stories on this podcast that were workshopped at MFAs or came from graduates of MFAs that were very good and very engaging and did the iceberg thing very well. So there is a way to do it
When you talk about
effectively.
the MFA problem, it's a very specific problem. Not all MFA people and programs get it. It's something that's commonly been talked about in like newspaper articles and stuff, that good authors, when they're in their programs, they have to avoid this. And it's something that's very specific. I know Juno Diaz talked about this. You know, being in a program and workshopping and having to know when your story is your story so that other voices don't dilute it. And you can tell when a story has been diluted, and you can tell when a story hasn't been. Just as much as you can tell when a story has rejected all good advice. You don't want to do that either. And I think one of the signposts for that is when things get really disjointed, because what happens is one person gives you critique and you edit for that critique. And then another person gives you a completely different critique and then you edit for that critique. And then another person gives you one and you edit for that critique. And before you know it, your coherent story has gotten really jig-jagged and confusing. That's one of the signposts of that. But also one thing that's been happening is the language, the MFA language has been like this literary sound has developed where if you're trying to be a literary writer, you have to have this sound. And that's something that frustrates me because I personally, I don't mind it when it's warranted, but sometimes that sound isn't necessarily warranted. In this story, I think it has more of a jig-jag problem than a sound problem.
And I think that even, I think you might be right about it being over-edited and edited piecemeal because there's no rhythm to the story. There's no, it feels very disjointed. It feels, it's hard to get a handle on it, and things are just sort of thrown in and left there, and so I think we probably. Yeah, I think you probably hit the nail on the head there. Over-edited.
And it makes me sad because some of the language is amazing. I mean, some of the language, there are lines in the story that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But there was no there.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little different when it comes to language. I've noticed that the lines that I tend to be like, "This was amazing" or "This was well put" is when somebody phrases some human truth in a really short, pointed, clever way, or when there's an image that is a parallel of the human truth that the story is getting to. Like that's so like you can describe something very cleverly, but if you're just describing a thing that doesn't mean anything, I'm less impressed, I guess. So like
Mm.
sure, she could the few things she described, the one or two things she actually described, sure, she described them effectively, but if there's no greater meaning, I just don't care. I get a bit of a so what.
Yeah, and I think my appreciation of language probably comes because I started out as a poet. And so when I read a beautiful sentence that's just beautiful on its own, I'm able to just say, oh, that is a beautiful sentence, and I can appreciate that. Some of the sentences that I enjoyed in this story weren't so much beautiful, but they were interesting. I found some of the language interesting. And it's interesting that you said you didn't know where it was placed, because I had that same sense. You know, the names told me that it was not in the U.S. Those are just not American names. And so I instantly went to like England or South Africa or something where there's a lot of English people, like an old colony somewhere. You know, those names, Sid, Francis, like you don't hear those in the U.S.
True.
Yeah.
At least not all together in one friend group. You get one weirdo with an off name, like, you know, you don't get a whole bunch of them together.
Gerald's a nice name.
Who'd have a weird name like Gerald? Yeah.
Gerald's a
Weird
nice
name.
I kept picturing Gerald as Gerald. Actually, that made it really hard. The story was
Thanks.
really cement me in the story. And so because I wasn't cemented in the story, every time it said Gerald, I was like, oh, Gerald. Oh, not that Gerald.
No. No, thank you. Yes. Thank you, author, for that. Using my name. Yeah.
Oh.
Are we ready to rate this puppy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, crikey.
Okay, let's get this puppy rated. I don't think I've rated anything this low yet. I wanted to give it a 2, but after this conversation, if all 4 of us can read the story multiple times and still not actually know what the story is about, I have to give it a 0.5. You have 4 people reading the story, and it's not a matter that we didn't like it or we did like it. We literally don't know what the story's about.
Yeah.
That's a crucial error.
I'll be nice and give it a 1.
That sounded like the most backwards, snarky comment ever. I just hope the author does not listen to this podcast.
Oh, crikey, yeah.
I know. I have a bit of the connection.
Rolled in a ball, rocking back and forth.
Oh, jeez.
I know. I'm suffering from Kenichi prophecy right now because I'm remembering things that I've given a 2 to, which means that giving this a 1.
And they weren't that
too
bad.
high. Yeah, they weren't even that bad. Like now all of a sudden I'm like, I can't believe I gave that a 2. This has to be a 0.5 only because we don't give zeros. Like honestly. Yeah. 0.5.
Well, here's something I wanted to ask about, because I had given a 0.5 before, but then looking on the Literary Roadhouse website, they talk about it being 1. You say it's 1 to 6. So maybe we should say
No.
0.5
You
to 6.
instituted the 0.5 rule. The 0.5 rule was specifically instituted by you.
Mhm.
And so
For a
Wow.
story that wasn't even
I
that
feel
bad.
changed our rating, Rami. You are a crucial part of the Literary Roadhouse because
The
you
first 0.5 was Wagons Ho, Paget Howl, and it was not that bad. It was
I
the
know,
frontier men taking tiaras to the west.
I know, right?
Significantly better than this one.
Watch Rami try to give it a 0.25 because of Kenichi prophecy. Wagons Ho was
No,
not that bad.
You're gonna influence me to go lower than I was originally thinking. I was first oscillating between 1 and 2, but now since you're gonna give it a 0.5, I'm gonna follow
No, you gotta give
suit.
it your own rating. If you liked it at a 1, give it a 1, dude.
No, but you all influence how I view it as well.
Ooh.
No, honestly, I was gonna say 1 because I was thinking one or two, because I was thinking maybe there was something wrong with me, like I didn't give it as much like insight or attention as it deserved or something like that. But I'm happy to find out I wasn't the only one. So
Originally
we'll go
I thought maybe I was
0.5.
not smart enough for this story, but no, because you guys are smart. So
We'll go 0.5.
0.5s. And a 1 over there.
wow.
Yeah. I think actually, I'm giving it a 1, the exceptional mark of 1, because it didn't annoy me. It's
Ah.
it's
A new low. The story did not annoy me, therefore.
And you guys think competently written is a slight.
Listen, Gerald, it also didn't annoy me, but I'm still at a 0.5.
No, I'll reserve my 0.5 for one that really annoys me.
You know, I think you're hitting on something there, because there are stories that I have rated a 5 or a 5.5 that had a whole section that just pissed me off. Like when we read A Silver Dish, the whole thing, like the 5,000 words of trudging across snow, like that annoyed me. But the story overall was so good that I could look over the annoyance and still give it above a 5. And this story did not annoy me at any point. But I'm like, no, like you have to give me a story though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't think we've ever rated a story this low. Ever.
No, this is our lowest.
This is our lowest.
2.5 from.
I feel bad too, because if this author listens to this, like I feel bad. Like I'm sure
As
she's
a writer, I hate this. I hate this. Like I was reading this the second time I read it, I was like, there has to be something here that I'm just not seeing. Because she's competent, she's coming from this great program, there are lines in here that show skill. Like, what am I just not seeing? Because I don't like feeling like I'm trashing someone's work. And I've never had such a hard time finding things that I liked about a story before.
And and there's a part of me that hopes we're really, really like nail on the head with this has been over MFA'd, because that means that once she's not workshopping stories in MFA programs or in those circles, they'll probably get better. Like they'll get better.
Sitting somewhere waiting to be drawn out. I don't know. I hope we're right. Because I just feel really bad.
Yeah.
Let's not tweet at her, shall we?
No, let's not tweet at her. Okay, game time.
Tweet at this one. So this week I am submitting another Charles Bukowski story, and I was going through his list of titles, trying to find titles without curse words in them. I am submitting. I think I like this guy just based on the titles alone. So this is his very first published story, the story that like got him his start. It's called "The Aftermath of a Lengthy Rejection Slip."
Interesting title.
Rami or Gerald?
I'll go.
Gerald,
I'll go. Yeah, I'll go. I'll dip into Car magazine. I'll give up on the one that I'll give you a prize. I'll give up on the one that I've been recommending for weeks. So from spring 2014, Depth Perception by Laura M. Gibson.
And my story is Bluebell Meadow by Benedict Kiley. Hold on, let me say that again because there was like some background. It's Bluebell Meadow by Benedict Kiley.
Okay. The quiz is super quick because I'm at the beach. So, it's only 3 questions.
That's not what it sounded like you said at first.
I'm at the beach. So I'm going to give you 3 questions, and the answer is a number, and you guys have to guess the number. Whoever's closest wins, and then you accumulate points. 3 of them, and then I have a 4th tiebreaker, but hopefully we won't need it. Okay, so the author's bio inspired me to look up the Big Hole Mine in Kimberley, South Africa. So we're going off a bio here instead of a story.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get 0.5s in a story.
Yeah.
So the Big Hole Mine in Kimberley, South Africa was established shortly after the De Beers brothers found diamonds on their farmland. When was the Big Hole discovered? What year?
We're all supposed to guess?
Mm-hmm.
We're all supposed to guess, and whoever gets closest.
Gerald, Maya, Rami is the order. I can give you a clue. It's...
No. We're good. We can do this.
All right, go, Gerald.
1892.
Okay.
It's close, but I'm going to say 1905.
Okay. Remy?
1858.
58. It's 1871. So who's closer between Remy and Gerald? Real quick.
Me.
I think it's
Yeah, I think
Remy,
Remy's slightly closer.
Yeah,
Remy!
that's unfair because I set the pointer to where it was. And
You
Anyway.
did. You did.
Yeah.
You did.
I was
Okay.
thinking
Anyway,
of
move
my
on.
year even before you said. Actually, you were gonna make me go up to like 1900 or something.
Okay.
Anyway, let's not fall out over this.
The Tiffany yellow diamond, one of the largest in the world, was discovered in Kimberley by the De Beers in 1878. How many carats did it weigh in the rough upon discovery? The answer's in the hundreds.
It's one of the biggest in the world,
One of
or
the
it
biggest in
is
the world.
the biggest.
No, one of the, not the biggest, but it's in the top 10.
278.
Okay.
Pounds?
No
Carrots.
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 Oh, carrots. 312.
Okay, Remy.
250.
Gerald is closest. It's 287. You were really
Wow.
close. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. The Big Hole Mine was sold in the new millennium. What month and year?
May 2005.
Okay.
April 2002.
Okay.
I don't want to win this. January 2000.
And Maya wins. It was May 2015.
All right.
You guys
Oh,
each have
really?
1 point. We have to go now into the tiebreaker, which isn't very
Oh
good.
no.
You did the one thing you weren't supposed to do. You had one job.
Yeah, good job.
Do not tie.
Good job.
Okay.
Seems-
Especially because this one isn't a number. This one you have to name a country or a nationality. So
great.
the De Beers didn't actually establish the company that we know today. The De Beers company is named after settlers of this European colonial power who had the farmland where the diamonds were discovered. So the De Beers farm owners, what colonial power were they from?
Netherlands.
Austria.
I was gonna say Dutch also.
You're going with the same answer, but then how are we going to tie break?
Gerald can have it. I don't want to win
Gerald
this.
said it first, so Gerald
Yeah.
wins. It's Dutch. I had a feeling it would be good because you can guess what it is. Okay.
Hey.
Carve magazine again. What are we reading?
Yeah. We're reading Depth Perception by Laura M. Gibson.
Okay.
How come I always never win?
Maya, I'll win next time and give it to
bad
you.
at quizzes. I'm so bad at them.
No. You're good. You're good.
Okay. But before you go, don't throw your thoughts and comments in the snow. There's a safe home for them at literaryroadhouse.com. Also, join us in the deep, dark review section at iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker. Also, we stopped bathing to prove our love to you, listener, so you don't think we love our other shows, the Literary Roadhouse Book Club and the Bradbury Challenge, more than you. Also, ever since they closed down the diamond mine, we're barely scraping by. Help support our toe amputations and podcast expenses at patreon.com/literary roadhouse. Every bit counts. And as always, share this podcast with a temperamental stepfather in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
That's fantastic.
Speak for yourself, not bathing.
Oh. I am
She doesn't
down.
have to. She's at the beach.
Right.
She's going to bathe every time she walks in the water.
No, what I'm saying.
In
We're
the
still
interest of
bathing.
full disclosure, I will say that I worked for a company that had connections to De Beers at
Oh,
one point.
so you know everything.
No, I don't. No. Well, I was on the industrial diamond side, not the natural diamonds. So that's why it's fair.
Very different.
Mm,
There you go.
cool.
Meanwhile, Rami should have had all the answers since he's in a CIA facility with a visually monitored. He can just like wave his hand and answers appear. You know.
No,
So,
I can't look up anything during the quiz, so I don't tap into the database while we're filming, recording.
That was perfect timing. I finished that with 11 minutes to spare on my battery.
oh,
Well
okay.
done.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
So
Bye.
long.
See you later.
Bye.
So long. Farewell.